They are government projects. So there are some education that these politicians have done for us. Let us find out what have they taught our people we can leverage on to take them out of power. But basically here, I want us to agree on the following. And Fabish, now I'll take just 2 minutes. I close, then I hang my microphone. Let us come with a team that will draft this irreducible minimum that we need to recommend before. That even if they don't do, we know that they did. That those are our demands. After we have come with a team, let us give them timeline. If it will take them 2 weeks or 1 week to get back to us, because let us not hurry to talk now more before we put our house in order. What are these reforms? Once you come with these reforms, how can we reach the civil society? How can we reach LSK? How can we reach some organizations that are actually addressing this matter? How can we use the platform for Gen Zs to even meet with ambassadors and tell them, the US ambassador, we miss the UK ambassador. Some people hate meeting them, saying, oh, those are only imperialists. In diplomacy, let people know what your position is. That's very important. At least let them know. So let's look for drafting this thing. Whom do we need to let them know? And then after that, we can call a press statement. And that press statement should be called when already we have convinced some stakeholder that this is something that is critical. Let us not just surprise them with it. And then once you do a press statement, that document should state what needs to be done, by what timeline, so that we can still have election in September 2027. So we should not look like we are delaying the election. We should tell them these are the reforms that are needed. For example, now that we have select panel that have been sworn into office, isn't it? Should they add 2 people? Let's talk about incremental. Let's not about reduction. Let's say, should they add 2 more people, or should they remove this person and replace with that person? And then we can tell them, we can give you a timeline on point which can do this. Then when can we contribute to the issue of IBC? How should they elect the chairperson? What are those reforms on the substance on the ground we need to focus on? And I'm thinking sometimes telling them to now go back to remove the select panel might be a tall order. That should not be our release or minimum. Our release or minimum should be electoral process, registration. That should be very key. Cleaning the IBC register should be key. The issue of ensuring that people do not have challenges in voting. The issue of using state resources should be a challenge. The issue of ensuring that IBC is independent according to the matrices which we'll set for them. The issue of involving young people in these processes, like even how is this IBC factoring in the young population? I look at all the select panel there's no youth. I'm looking at again, there'll be an IBC commissioner that will never have a youth. So if some of us young people want to run, how will we run when only these people are in charge of our elect? So we must find something that will be more, people think we are being more progressive than actually being a hindrance. And that might make us look like being, let's say, forward-looking, more progressive than more of saying remove this person, remove that person. Remember, once somebody has been given a meat on their mouth, it becomes difficult to actually recommend, and they cannot step backwards. What can we use the same? How can we use the same people to ensure that we minimize the election fraud? The issue is minimized, and then give recommendation that the next select panel should be like this and that. I'm sure select panel will start office and go office. How can we ensure that the select panel gives us the right IBC commissioners and chair, even if they are as corrupt as they are? I'm thinking that, Fabish, if we take that direction, people can hear us. But what I know, with all due respect, is that Kenyans really wanted that select panel to be. That's why they pushed Kalonzo and insulted him for being a barrier until Kalonzo had to give in and ensure we have one. So anybody trying to delay that process which has begun might be going counter to Kenyans. And I can tell you, you can change even the whole select panel and they can still rig the election. But there are some things, if we change, they cannot rig the election. Like the register is so important, I'm telling you. If the register remain what it is, there, as I can tell you, I have intelligence and I wanted to go to the media, but I'm still waiting to have a group like you as now. I'm happy this one has come. I wanted to go to the media that IBC is already registering some people to the IBC register without commissioners in place, which is unconstitutional. And we need to take that on board because the president is putting some people there who comes from the communities which he knows, and he's trying already to fill them in the register before new commissioners come. So by the time we shall have new IBC commissioners in June or May, he would have filled the register with the people he knows he wants. So we need to take advantage of some of those opportunities and actually see ourselves as a group. I think we need to go by a name that actually people can identify with. We don't need to be called young people, Gen Z, or let's say Vugu Vugu. No, we might actually need to have our name of the movement, which I'm sure for me, for now, we stand for Mwanzo Mpya. We can also call ourselves J25. We can call ourselves alternative leadership, but we need to have a brand and a name so that when you go to the media, we can engage by saying so and so is the Secretary General or so and so. So we have to put our house in order before we get out of the bedroom and before we go to from the bedroom, from the sitting room to from the sitting room to the parking and eventually to the public. With those few remarks, let me thank you all, a lot for this. I'm sure all of us are sacrificed. I'm sure that the sacrifice you have made here shows that we have a team, and I'm sure no one has been sent M-Pesa. Therefore, no one can claim that we are being mobilized by NGO. This is us feeling for the flag. And for the sake of the flag, long live Kenya. God bless Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Prof. Yes, I want to agree with you that, like what I normally say is, we need not just to be talking and making just empty rhetorics, but we need to be people that we talk, plan, and execute, so that at least we create an impact, not just only for the sake of talking in the space to stay relevant or to have followers. No. And only that we need to have more deeper discussion in the near future, because there are some issues that I believe you cannot repair a broken system. So to me, how I'm convinced is, you cannot repair a broken system. So, sometimes we need to be truthful, to be honest, even when majority don't want to accept the reality. But let us always not be dissuaded because we want to entice the community to tell them what they want to listen. So if, for example, I want to agree with you, but I'm saying if, for example, we say that this election panel should be cancelled, we don't need, to say, no, if we say this, the community will think this otherwise, and we need, to patronize the community. If that is the reality, and if it takes that selection panel to be the conduit of electoral fraud, then we should have stance. And that is why I like the earlier submission of Chacha. Wakati akasema, unaona kama watu wengi, politicians and activists, wana tabia za kimalaya malaya vile Nyerere alisema, they always want to be to be look like their savior, or they just want to blow with the wind. But we need to see what is doable and what is not doable. If, like, we cannot say that, even as corrupt as they are, the panelists, and we can, amend this and do that. If someone is corrupt, and there is nothing you can do. Just like the way William Ruto is. We cannot say that, even I was in another space where people are saying, after William Ruto, maybe we need just to clear the parliament and bring the new MPs, and, then William Ruto, even as is corrupt, but, the MPs, when you have a good parliament, they can. I said, what are you talking about? Something that is rotten. When a fish is rotten, there is no way to redeem it. So, Prof, and yes, I want to agree with you that we need to make this a national dialogue, and also we need to make a team that we are having this discussion and giving updates on these things, and also pushing and giving the timelines as you put. So, of course, with your guidance, that you are there, I think we'll be able to constitute the team. We have also, like John here, is actually the leader of Mwanzo and another Kenyans also that I know they are very knowledgeable. So yes, we need to constitute that team, and even where we always are in the group, Prof. I think also we utilize that platform. And when we talk of how we need to identify ourselves, for us to continue as a movement, before I give to Western, how is we might not all fit in one movement, but we can make some kind of affiliation from different movements that we align in the same thoughts. We have Manzompia, we have June 25th, we have the other one here. So we can just make some kind of affiliation of different movements and working with other like-minded Kenyans, including the activists, including the human rights defenders, and then we just form a formidable team, even if we are not in the same umbrella, but we are aligning in the same line of thoughts. So, Prof, we will continue engaging and with your guidance, or now we are going to disseminate this information and compile them together, and now we start asking for demands about the reducible minimums, what will work for us, which kind of we need to weigh down if yes, indeed, is it possible that we can utilize this selection panel or their total reject, then we can push. Even if they're total reject, we continue saying they're total reject and we don't need. If we see that, okay, it is something that they can be redeemed, then we go that direction. Thank you so much. So let's hear from Western Silahau. He has been here for quite some time. He has been patient. Welcome, Western.
Thank you so much, Fabish. Um, Greetings to everyone else. Fabish, I don't know whether you are the one who came up with the topic. It has got a sense of deja vu, such that Kenyans who are familiar with the history of the country have seen such a slogan before. And it didn't amount to much. Because in a country where you've got a decadent political elite, the way we do, reform is another way of saying I'll apply band-aid to the problem. Band-aid. It simply means I have no problem with the status quo, but you can rearrange the chairs on the deck. You can include this person here and there. That language about inclusion, removing this person, that person. That can't be substantive change in any shade or form. It's not. So in Kenya, the problem is we reduce, a total overhaul of a fairly rotten system to personalities. Bring a new chair, Chebukati is God. You bring another person, the person behaves exactly like the one who was there you didn't like. You get rid of that person, but you don't stop and pause. What is the problem? The problem is bigger than personalities. And the state is still very powerful. Despite our efforts to decongest the center, the president is still very powerful in Kenya. Because the hope was that with the coming into being of the 2010 constitution, there will be dispersal of power. That has not happened. Because those who are running the state at the center are very much opposed to decentralization. They don't want something like that. They want to control everything. And elections are very integral to the retention of power. They're integral to the commission of all these excesses we're talking about: corruption, bad governance, impunity, extrajudicial executions, exclusion, elections. Because in a democracy, elections are supposed to set off governance, as in they afford people the opportunity to either renew the mandate of those who are serving or replace them. In a democracy, that's what elections do. But in our country, we think elections are the be all and end all of everything. It's not, it can't be. So I see like we are like indigenization of political discourses, Fabish. Because when you talk about irreducible minimum reforms, Fabish, what you're talking about is some people selected or selecting themselves and meeting in some room to talk about things that are affecting Kenyans. We have tried that route before, it didn't take us anywhere. They end up cutting deals amongst themselves. Whether they're purporting to be opposition politicians, whether they're purporting to be part of civil society, whether they're purporting to be part of the religious formations, they meet and cut deals amongst themselves. And they abandon Kenyans. You must be very careful when you talk about the language of experts. You know, a few people to meet and, you know, thrash out what are the issues that are important. Fabish, I ask you, if you have got the political elite that cannot adhere to this 2010 charter and the many provisions that have come forth as a result of it, what are these minimum reforms that these people will adhere to? What could be bigger than the constitution that we have? What could be bigger than that? Why is it that these people have refused to implement the kind of recommendations that are contained in the Kriegler report in the aftermath of the contested and violently so 2000 elections? Why have they not implemented those recommendations? Why? Why do they want to reinvent the wheel? Or why do people listen to this language of no reforms, no elections, want to reinvent the wheel? It's as if we are talking about things we have never talked about before, or things that people have never sat as, you know, committees, including Kenyans and foreigners, and come up with a raft of recommendations, say, put in place these measures to ring fence the credibility of subsequent elections. The political elite has refused stubbornly that kind of thing. Why do we think this time around they will? I don't think they will. I don't think they will. They're buying time. And remember, when you confront the political elite outside of, you know, air-conditioned rooms, outside of the law, well, they may struggle to handle you. But once they have you in a room, you are talking the language of the law, yes, they have you where they want you to be. Because the law, in Kenya specifically, it's universal. It's an instrument of power. And the law in Kenya serves the political elite. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't be like that, but that is what it is. Those things about NADCO reports, what have you, IPPG back in time under Moi, those things serve the political elite, not Kenyan people. And I'm afraid we're going back to that route. So, Babish, let me put it to you like this. This is my fear. It's my fear because I anticipate problems. I anticipate problems. If you listen to the party apparatchiks affiliated to William Ruto and the ruling coalition, I think there's one statement they're putting across, and some of us are not listening to what they're saying because we tend not to listen to one another, Fabish, in Kenya. If I don't like you, I'll dismiss what you're telling me. I don't want to pay attention to it. And if I like you, even if you talk nonsense, I would say you're speaking the most sagacious things. That's the problem with our society. If you listen to William Ruto's sidekicks, they are telling us that there's no way he's going to serve one term because those who came before him didn't serve one term. And there's nothing that we did. We may have protested, nothing happened. He will not be the first president to serve a one term. That's what they are telling us. They are reminding us that Mwai Kibaki lost elections in 2007. He went nowhere. The 2017 elections were disputed, which means Uhuru Kenyatta lost. He went nowhere. William Ruto will go nowhere. They're reminding us that. And I'm not so sure whether we're listening. That's what they're reminding us. So our investment in elections sometimes can betray naivety. You know, our investment in these institutions can betray naivety because they're telling us, no, you people, you're being naive and you're lost. Think of something else. And I'm afraid they may be vindicated at the end of the day if those who are opposed to them are the people who are revolving around Kalonzo and those kind of people. You know, if those are the people some Kenyans are entrusting with the agency to get rid of this regime. Now, I'm afraid it is gonna be a futile exercise, very futile. We have to conceptualize what I would call a third force and how that will look like. I don't know, a third force that we transcend the current regime under William Ruto, and I foresee Ruto and Raila working together way into the future, most likely even until 2027 elections. We transcend this regime, this coalition. We transcend the other coalition of Kalonzo Musyoka and those other people, Rigathi and those kind of people. And we see whether there could be a viable third force. And that calls for strategy. It calls for, you know, what we would say, unity of purpose as people of Kenya. We transcend this smallness that we always hold us back. Ethnicity, regionalism, religion, very funny things. It's not an easy thing to do. But that is what is required of us, as opposed to, vesting interest in the panel that has been set up, and then subsequently the IEBC that will be formed, and then we're focusing on the Supreme Court. Will these people be removed? Will they be replaced? Who is likely to be part of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice? Those kind of things. Those kind of things may not take us far because they are likely to populate those institutions with user-friendly people, because these people are career politicians. They're careerists. There's no other profession they have ever been involved in. It's politics. That's what they do. And therefore, they have been party to those kind of shenanigans in the past, and they're not going to do anything different going forward. It's for self-preservation. Babish, I am afraid that even as we agitate for change, we agitate for substantive reform, if I may use the word, or a total overhaul of this dysfunctional and decadent political system, we're still caught up in a mindset that has put us in these problems. For instance, Fabich, why would we take our thinking about the way forward for a country to the American ambassador in Nairobi, the British High Commissioner in Nairobi, or we petition the European envoys in Nairobi? For which I fail to understand the logic behind that, frankly speaking. It's mired in neocolonialism. We may refuse it, but it's also imperialistic. We think that on our own, we are not doing something worthwhile until Mzungu is involved or we invoke Mzungu. These kind of petitions we make on, foreign governments and what have you, whether it's in the US, all over. Fabish, I don't think that is the logic that people who are ready to take charge of their lives and exercise their agency are made of. That's not the logic. That's a William Ruto logic, frankly speaking, who thinks that solutions to Kenyan problems can come from the US or from Europe or London. That is the logic. I mean, I don't get it. So how can we, on one hand, accuse him of selling out the country to external actors, and specifically the West, and us, who are opposed to him, still hold the view that the West must be party to our struggles and that we must explain to them what we are doing, what the Kenyan, so-called change makers have always done, whether it was against Daniel Moi, whether it was after Daniel Moi, it has always been, even Raila Odinga and opposition people. We're asking Americans, listen to us. We're asking our friends, Britain, listen to us. The European Union, listen to us. Say something. I mean, I find that kind of notion completely twisted. Completely twisted. It's not the kind of mindset you expect in somebody who is actually keen on liberation, and liberation in the real sense of the word. You can't, on one hand, characterize yourself as a revolutionary. On the other hand, appeal to reactionary forces that are part and parcel of your subjugation. That is contradictory in terms. I don't get it. Your previous speaker said that. I don't think I agree with him. It's completely retrogressive. It takes us nowhere. It ensures that we are stuck where we are. We get people like William Ruto, and we rotate around the same place. So please, if there's an appeal I have to make, I think our education system doesn't help much, is to try, it's not easy, and decouple ourselves from this Eurocentric mindset. It's completely retrogressive. It's poverty inducing, is politically subjugating, is economically subjugating, is culturally subjugating. It's epistemically, when it comes to education, epistemically subjugating. We must leave it behind. Then we can move forward. That's why, for those who care to find out, one of the major reasons why we lost the AU Commission chair, because the rest of Africa perceives us as Eurocentric, excessively Eurocentric. We think things African don't matter. We think other African countries don't matter, can't teach us anything. It's only Britain and US and those kind of people that can teach us something. So please, even as we agitate and look forward for how we are going to extricate ourselves from this political quagmire, let us be careful not to fall into the hands of the very, very actors that have put us in this kind of situation. Papi, those are my 2 cents. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Western. And I can't agree more. Because, yeah, we are vulnerable to that dependency level where we feel like if we are to struggle, our struggle is not enough, that we need a hand from somewhere, that our voices are not strong enough, that we need another person somewhere to speak. But then again, you would see, it is the European Union that are now very much concerned about the IBC formation. I don't know if you have been keenly following. The past few days, they have been making statements about the IBC formation and how it should be, speed up. So the European Union are more concerned of the IBC more than the Kenyans themselves. We are living interesting times. So we have already surrendered our sovereignty. We have surrendered our power to the foreign powers. That is why, yes, and I want to agree, both the government and the people, they are all rushing to look for solutions outside. Today, William Ruto was in Arab, 193 billion in terms of loan from Saudi Arabia or the Emirates. 193 billion is coming to Kenya as a loan only from Saudi Arabia. And yet we are sending our young girls and our young Kenyans to go and work So I don't want to imagine a bad scenario where Kenya will start defaulting and they start to have bad blood relationship. And then I would want to imagine what will happen to those Kenyans over there when there is broiling bilateral agreements. So all these efforts, manipulation that, oh, I'm going to look for you, work overseas, was just because you want to entice for you to get something out of there. So we are already vulnerable in that dependency level, Western, in many aspects. The IBC that we are talking today, the money that we are talking, the government, they are depending on these foreign countries, on these Western countries to fund it. And so that they can also get a cut out of it. And that is why you see the EU is more concerned of the IBC more than us, we as Kenyans. So, but I want to agree with you. Yes, reforms is not enough. It's not even, I think it's not the right word. Like we had said even before. I think it was even John that even suggested that. We need an overhaul because reforms, there is no kind of reform that we have never made in this country, whether electoral reforms. We have reformed this, from this reform, we reform. So it is a time that I said we Kenyans should demand what we want and, stop thinking that we need to be given privilege. We need to be favored. Problem with us Kenyans, we always like favors. That is also another thing that we are suffering from. We always like favors. When you go to an office, even where you are right to be served, but if someone comes and tell you, okay, unataka kusaidiwa, najua mkubwa, you cannot stand and say, no, I do not come for kusaidiwa. I come to be served because this is my right to be served. No, lakini mtu akikuja kuambia, okay, unataka kwenda kwa ofisi ya PS, najua mtu kule. You find you are very excited that nimefanyiwa favor, nimepata connection. And it has led us where we are today. So that's why we need to continue with this candid discussion and understand what is our rights and how do we learn to stand our grounds. We stand our grounds. And that's why you see, even when we are discussing here, you'll find someone say that, oh, if we do this, and maybe people will think there is nothing like, even if we have to postpone the election, I want to agree, even if we have to postpone, we can postpone. And yes, I saw someone raised concern here, and I knew that this concern will come up. When someone said, oh, unajua mkifanya hivyo, then you will legitimize, you will make William Ruto to extend his stay in office. I say no. When we know our grounds, hata tukisema kwamba 2027 hatuja kuwa tayari kwa election, tunataka tufanya 2028. 2027 inafika, Ruto should pack up and go. We just need to have a transition government. It is happening in other jurisdictions. It is very much possible. It is not something that is impossible. Yes, we are not ready for election, but the term of this regime has expired. So what do? Yes, we come with solution, with a temporary solution, and that is to have a transitional government. What we had in 2007 until 2012, it was a transitional government. Ama vile ilifichwa tu under the nusu mkate, under the coalition, but it was a transition government. That is why Raila and Kibaki came. It was kind of transition, and that's why we transition until we go to the new dispensation, and now we form a new government. So it is possible, but we cannot just go because of punctuality. What is the meaning at kwamba, oh yeah, we need to beat the deadline, and then you get a bad results? What is the meaning? Maji ni machafu, lakini unasema ati nachelewa, uende uoge na matope, utakuwa umesuluhisha nini? we need to get our priorities clear. All odds are against us. This election, 2027, is not an election. Take it or not. Tuache mambo ya kusema sijui timing. The timing is not our problem. They are the one that make that problem. They are the one that made that bed and they should lie in it. So inafaa tuendelee na mpango yetu ya kutengeneza electoral body, a good one, a credible. Forget about the time. Na time yawa ikisha, they must go. That is the constitution. It is not way about it. There is nowhere that give them privilege to extend even one day. So they will just pack and go. We have a transition and we continue with our arrangement of getting a credible institution. It is very much possible. Like we Kenyans, we have suspended our critical thinking. We just want to be comfortable. When we talk of revolution that we have, it is only revolution that we can remove this tyrant. We don't want that way. When we said, okay, even as we are going to election, but let's have a credible one. No. Wacha tu tuende tu bembeleze, tuende hivi tuta. And then we come on crying again in 2027. Let's hear from Brian 1 minute, then we go to Jeff.
I was about to go sleep, but let me just respond to a leader when she was asking how the stealing happens. And in this, my response will be assisted by John Kiarie. So I'll just want to ask a simple question to John Kiarie. And this is just a question. It's, it's to improve our knowledge here. So John Kiarie, my question is, did you have all the 34C forms in the election that you participated in, the parliamentary election that you participated in? Okay, it seems John Kiarie is not there.
Yeah,
so
not there.
So I'm going to repeat this because I notice even Fabish misquoted me. Elida, are you here?
Brian, you can just continue what you want. You can just put your point without pull and push. Just say it. Clarify what you want to clarify. Put straight what you want to put straight. I think that will be okay, so that we can go to the next speaker.
So by and large, what Western has said in and the other speakers, I agree with. These reforms that are supposed to be made, there is nothing new that is being suggested now that has never been suggested before. And yes, indeed, we need to be improving. I'm not saying that everything improves, but how elections are sorted in Kenya is one. When people, and this is the unfortunate bit, because even Raila Odinga keeps on saying, why do I need agents if the elections are supposed to be free and fair? As it is, if you go and vote and you want to maintain the integrity of your vote, if you can, please stay there, record, take photos, take videos of those electoral documents, post them online, because that in itself might sound very small and very minute, but that is what helps. Elections like the one that has just happened, the one that happened in the States, all the media channels called it out, I think, a few hours before whatever the body called it, because this is how elections are supposed to be done, free and fair. And why part of the problems that we have in our election is one, tampering of the register. And how does this happen? Maybe you can organize another sessions where we can discuss. That happens. And part of the reason why you need to be verified as a voter is to sort of reduce that. How can we as citizens assist in doing that? We need to be active citizens. We need to not allow this process to be one of IBC, but to be one that is Kenyan. And being Kenyan, it means that we need to participate. So, and I think it is very important that we allow divergent opinions, because if you don't have divergent opinions on a subject, we end up creating an echo chamber and there is no knowledge being exchanged. Because if John Kiarie can tell you and maybe you can ask him, maybe if you have his number, if he had all the 34C forms. I don't think he had them, because if he had them, there are many elections which have been overturned. Fabish, I know elections which have been overturned, especially parliamentary elections, on the basis of the 34C form, whereby the candidates were able to present na koti yenyewe ikaona this thing has to be nullified. It is not, the idea is, yes, I'm not saying that, people, what is it called, that it does not happen. It happens. And when it happens, you have recourse. So this thing of saying that, election when it comes, you don't have money, you sijui nini, yes, that is very unfortunate. Elections as a candidate demands that you have people on the ground. You have agents, you have people who can collect all this information for you. Uzitali hapo. So I'll just like to land, but it's important we, as Fabish, whatever it is that you are doing, it is important, hata kama hukubaliani na the realities, we just face them. But now we look at reality, and then now we are like, I don't like this, I feel, because this is bad according to you. It is not helping anyone. Part of the reason why the political class thrive is when they know that hapa ndo tupenye tunawashika, let us give them this, let us give them that. We are not looking at the main picture, and the main picture is the rule of law. Part of the reason, you look at Europe, easy countries, they have elected people. I can ask you, Nicolas Sarkozy of France, he was convicted, but he was elected in Europe. You look at a person like Tony Blair, Joris Bonson of British, these are characters that if you actually look at them, they see what wazuri. But how comes, even if si watu wazuri, yes, they get elected, how comes things haziharibiki sana vile zinaharibika hapa Kenya? We don't have a rule of law. We don't respect institutions. Kenya, you can do anything as long as you have money. That's where the problem is. Yes. So let me just land.
Thank you, Brian. I like how you are very eloquent, but you get conflicted along the way of your points. Because when you say that we don't respect institution, respecting institution, it is institution are made to have powers that they can attract respect by itself, every institution, because they are there for a purpose. So if, for example, I take money and I'm not subjected to the law, it is not my problem. Tell me, how is it my problem that I take money and then you, Brian, that you are the head of the, whether anti-corruption or the judge or the, DCI, you not arrest me and you want it to be my problem. And then you say, I don't respect the institution. Institution, first, they should work for the respect by itself first. Do what they're expected to do. Deliver what they're expected to deliver. So, to behave just because the other person behaved that way. We need to set our own standards. You're talking of realities that we don't want to accept reality. The reality is our institutions are not working. They are not functioning. They are failed. And there is no faith in those institutions. And IBC is not different from those other institutions. They are failures. This late Chebukati, after 2027 election, all other commissioners resigned, disagreed with him, until he remained with two, Molu and the other one. And the same thing reflected in 2027, in 2022, I mean. He was also left alone. So, and then we don't see anything wrong there. And you are saying that we should live by reality. So, let us stop this kind of, I know, I'll tell you, because I always talk the way it is. I don't buttress. You started your submission by telling us that you worked with IBC, that you had a tender. and that is your interest, and it is good, to
I did not
direct
work with
people.
IBC. I worked with ODM. Please, please, please. My work, my consultancy was with ODM. It was not with IBC. We were there. We were supposed to automate their process of their party agents. Party agents, vile wana relay to the National Talent Center that was at Sifa Towers. I think that building was owned by Kidero or whatever. That was, I've never worked with IBC in any role or capacity. We were just consultants for ODM. And please, I think it's very important. Hello?
So this agenda, we must demand a clean IBC, or if it means overturning the whole thing and coming with a new fabric, even called different thing, so be it. You cannot, even if you open a business, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you're not getting profit, why would you continue running that business? You change, you go to something else, or you seek for employment. So thank you so much. Maybe for closing remarks, I don't know. Jeffy, you are not to give us your submission. Sorry for keeping you waiting. I not even noticed. I thought I was the last speaker so that I give other people to give closing remarks. So Jeffy, kindly, your submission plus your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Fabrice. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yeah, you are.
I have heard Brian speak of institutions, and if he's careful enough to recognize the fact that we're not foreigners, we know what is happening in this country and the mutilation of the constitution in the name of institutions. And so for me, my question will be to him, how many institutions do we have that actually speak for the people of Kenya as a collective with the interest of the people? Because we actually have the legislature, which is the Senate, and the National Assembly, which has actually been captured by the government, Ruto, so as to speak. And now we have the executive that just doesn't bring any balance. What Ruto thinks and says becomes the rule of the law. And now there's an attempt, the last line of defense for the Kenyan people, which becomes the judiciary, is also online for Ruto. So then we become a state that is just captured with dictatorship. And I'm like, Brian, you need to go back to your history properly, whether that is how we founded this nation. My second point would be, I really like, I'm a student of Western. A lot of stuff that he speaks about, I resonate with. However, he leaves us with the question of then what becomes of Kenya in terms of, do we have any solutions coming on? Because I believe, looking at the country and in the direction that it is headed, we are all headed in the wrong direction. Not, within our borders locally, but going forward even to our international diplomacy is ruined. And all because of one man, just one man, self-interested, So I think we've got to a place of whether or not is there respect for the rule of law, and do we respect the offices that we elect our leaders to occupy in terms of the presidency, the vice, the members of parliament? When they talk down to the people of Kenya, call them all sorts of names, stupid, wajinga, demon possessed. Where does that leave the populace? Those are my concerns. And in going forward, I'm like, okay, yeah. So it has to be an aura for an aura. And I think if you don't give respect to the people who elected you actually into position, you lose the moral authority to tell them anything. They can't listen. They won't listen. We won't listen. You can go ahead with talk to us about the many number of roads that you know by name. But if they are not actualized, who cares about it? And then my further aggravation is Kenyan's debt is growing older and older, bigger, not better, but just bigger. We cannot see how that is translated into this development that they talk about. And as we speak now, we are almost 12 trillion indebtedness. And I'm like, okay, it's fine for the Kenyan people to recognize, okay, we are indebted this much, but we can see translation into what has been done. There's nothing. Tell me one thing. If the basic things like healthcare, education, those things, if they're not met, people just die because of things like food and shelter and health and education. What gives this government the legitimacy of telling us that we are mocking them when they call on roads, for example, and they pick up monies, go borrow loans for which we cannot even substantially say this is what is translated into the reality of the common mwananchi. So maybe this one I would throw to my brother Weston. You've spoken so well. And like I've said, I'm a student of yours. What then becomes the response? What becomes? What should we do? What should we do? So, Fabish, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Jeffy. I think this is just an open of a beginning of a narrative, and of course, it is us Kenyans that we need to have a contribution and see how we can channel our contribution into actions, and how should we kickstart those actions, and what will be the end game, so every contribution counts a lot at this point, but I think this is a narrative. It is an agenda that should be now a national agenda. It should be a priority. It is not something that you can just rhetoric that we just talk to push time, or it is not even a political narrative. This is about life of our country, because remember, if any mistake that we always make during election, it is what defines our progress in the next 5 years, or for the next 5 years, or even can be more. So, and it is something that we have been ignoring it. That is why people have been taking 200 shillings, 500 shillings to just to go and vote for someone, but they don't know the kind of impact that your 500 that you are collecting, it can mess your life. And so is the electoral body. Electoral body is something that we should take it serious, even more than parliament. For us to have a good parliament, first, it will start during election. So even when we are talking of the economy of our country, you cannot have that. You cannot build your economy if you don't have the right leaders. And the only way to have the right leaders is to have a credible electoral body and independent, with integrity. So we have always avoided this as Kenyans and leave it to the entitlement of the, for the political class. And also the political class have this entitlement that they believe that they own the IBC or the electoral body, that, this body is because of them. That is what they believe, that they are the one, that this IBC is made for them, because they believe that they're only one, that they are using that IBC. And that is why they have that entitlement. They believe that they are the one to select, to dictate. People will be there. There's no politician that can be convinced that you can make IBC without their input. They will never believe. They have that entitlement. And Kenyans, we have surrendered also and said that, no, this is a responsibility of the political class. It does not concern us. And yet, when we are lamenting, it is us that we are affected, not those political class. Even those ones that they cry louder that, I don't know, the election was stolen, they never lose anything. They'll be there enjoying your taxes. People that they were crying, DM, that the election was stolen. You saw the other day, those few that they were nominated to be CS, somebody will be telling you, I am worth 4 billion. And you think they are affected? No, it is not you that you are affected by their decisions, whether good or bad, still affects us. So it is a right time that we now should understand that IBC, it is for us, we are the people to own it. And we are the people to make decisions without the input even of this political class. That is what we should be demanding. We want IBC that does not have any political footprint in it. Let now be put candid, because what one says, no. When we are talking of these reforms that we are talking is, we need IBC that aina any footprint, any politician, any political class, purely Kenyans. Then now we will task them to go now and follow the process of vetting and getting those people that they want to aspire for leadership. Yes, Jeffy.
I was still thinking of a 2027 fair and free election, because I hear a lot of people now talking about 2027. Have you talked to the common mwananchi, Wanjiku, to speak? Who is going to wait for the longevity of the suffering until 2027?
You see, Jeffy, I think you know how radical I have been, Kasema 2027. But what we are saying is, Kenyans are already comfortable to suffer, and that is the reality. We talk of revolution. We said we need to impose this. We need to put this pressure. No, but you see, all people are divided. Kenyans, I think we are immune to suffering, and that is the reality. So I think people are already ready to. People are already subjected themselves to suffer until 2027, of which it is fine. Let's flow with it. But what we are saying is, are we ready now to bring that change, effect that change in 2027? Or instead of us lying to ourselves, then we should tell each other, let us brace this suffering to go beyond 2027. Then 2027, somebody will just decide either you want to go and stamp William Ruto, or you just want to sleep in your house and let William Ruto continue. That is the reality of things now. That is the reality of things. Because when we talk, we said, we cannot continue suffering. We need to do this. No, people just we want to be comfortable. But okay, we have agreed. Let's continue be comfortable in 2027. But at least, should we continue again comfortable while suffering beyond 2027? If we continue saying that we are going to 2027 with this formation of the IBC, then we should be prepared to continue suffering until God decide otherwise. If I might be religious in this one.
You're right. You're actually right. And in no time, we'll end up like Uganda with a dictatorship that is perpetual. And I'm afraid for that for Kenyans.
So
need-
I'm sorry to step in. Jeffy, you seem to have asked me a question. Let me understand. What did you understand when I said we need to respect institutions? Because I realize I'm only responsible for what I say, but not how people understand.
All right. Brian, you speak so well of institutions, but whether or not institutions are actually institutions, they need to be working. And that does not need to be, like, you don't have to tell us the institutions are working. People should tell you whether the institutions are working or not. And so when you talk about institutions, what did you have in mind, Brian?
No, because I think you seem to jump on the gun. So let me just, explain, because I noticed maybe I was not very clear, and it could be because of the limited time that, spaces have. When I talk of, there was a former speaker, he's called Chacha. He talked of a book called Why Nations Fail, and I think it's a good read because I even have it in my shelf. They talk of countries, and many people think that countries, the ones that have minerals, the ones that have all these things, are the ones that succeed. No. The countries that succeed, according to this book by Daron, as he's a Turkish economist, he talks of institutions and he talks of pivotal moments of that country. But now let me talk about the institutions. For instance, we can pick the police as an institution. White people, it doesn't mean that white people don't commit crimes or don't have the same compulsions to commit crime as Africans. The difference being is that you are in London, you are in Ireland, you are in whatever, we can call them the first world countries. If you commit a crime, it could be a traffic infraction, it could be, something criminal, it could be something civil. You are taken through due process because they have an institution, unakuja unashikwa, unaambiwa, Mr. Jeffy, you did ABC, this is the evidence. The police don't take bribes because if they take bribes, that's a different, charge altogether. That is what I meant. Now, part of, and that's why I agree with Weston, the problem is that Kenyans think, yes, right now, Ruto is the avatar of the problems that are Kenya. He is what represents what, many consider as bad. A better question will be, what is this that presents options, where the likes of Ruto come up? But more importantly, are individuals important? And this is where I think we get it wrong every time. For this country, ifike pahali ambapo tunataka ifike ni rule of law, institutions, hii mambo ya imagining there's a messiah who's going to come and save us. That is why we keep on repeating these mistakes. Institution in the sense, we have the parliament, separation of powers. The president, even according to our constitution, cannot say that nitajenga barabara, nitafanya. He can't, he doesn't have the powers to do that. Parliament is the one that, what is it called? After the policy statement here, treasury, wanatengeza budget using ile finance bill. The citizens are the ones to say, yes, we want this or we don't want this. Like, 2024, the citizens rose up and said that we don't want this bill, hatutaki hizi taxes, we don't want your finance bill. That's how it works. So When I talk of respecting the institutions, I mean you have the political class, they need to respect the constitution, the institutions. You have the citizens, they need to respect the institutions. You have the various arms of governments, they need to understand that institutions exist and they need to be respected. So I really hope that you understand what I was meaning by respect of institutions, because I notice because of the limited time here, one is not able to explain everything, and maybe the assumption is they will be understood whatever it is that they are saying, but institutions need to be respected. Now, whatever it is that we are doing, even in this civic education and etc., I can tell you, Jeffy, the problem that I used to have is that people think the anger they have for Ruto is enough to change this country. We are going to vote. Let's imagine Jesus Christ is going to come down to on heaven, wherever we vote for him. And those problems will still be inherent. What do I mean? You have a parliament. What is the work of the parliament? Because me, according to me, among the most important things, I don't even look at the presidency, is the parliament, whereby you have members of parliament. Wakikuja, wakipatiwa bill. This member of parliament is accountable to you, Jeffy. I don't know what constituency you come from, but whatever constituency, they are accountable to you. The constitution talks of things like recalling your representative. Hiyo vitu yote imeandikwa pale. Part of the reason why the constitution and walieka hiyo provision, because they knew part of the remedies of these elected members is if they know that they can be recalled, if the citizens have the power to decide who is going to choose for them, they will somehow behave well. We have had impeachments, leave alone in Kenya, even in other places. Impeachment as an instrument is very important. So I feel like we might waste a lot of time focusing in places whereby, if you ask me, you look at, I don't know, the supposed reforms that have been happening in Kenya, leave alone about our elections, but of other things. You look at some of those proposals, very brilliant. You look at, we even hear that, some people from a different country came and picked our policies, they went to implement us, we are still there. So the problem is not even about ideas, proposals, reforms. The problem, we don't respect the rule of law, we don't respect institutions.
What do you mean, who is we?
Don't respect.
I want to understand who is we?
We as Kenyans, we as a society, we form what is Kenya. Because right now, I was asking a few people this question and they got very angry. I asked them this: if Kenyans really cared about corruption, and corruption was what was the worst thing that Kenya has ever had, how comes we have always been electing people who have questionable characters? You then realize the problem is us, is me, is you.
Brian, so that we don't continue, one thing is that me, sometimes I become very radical and my tolerance when it comes to discussion sometimes gets low. You are someone that I don't know how I can. The reason, I don't know how should somebody explain to you. 80% of our leaders are generated by a corrupt system, and one of them being IBC. And that is where we got, there was a time in Eldoret here where I think there was a Rambe somewhere, and Oscar Sudi publicly confessed that the current governor of Uasin Gishu was not actually the right candidate that won, that it was Ambassador Bitok that won that election. But because he said, but he called the boss I told the boss, leave that story. We'll just compensate that guy in another place. So now Uasin Gishu have a governor who was not their choice and they did not elect him. But you are here coming and defending, IBC, and then you are coming here again and telling us what I'm saying is we are where we are today because of those failed institutions instigated by the regime of the day. So stop blowing cold and hot at the same time and making our head hot. It is not making beating any logic. What we are saying is the problem that we have, if we had a credible election, we will not have William Ruto as president in the first place. But now you are coming and saying, what we are saying is these leaders, 80%, we did not elect them. They rigged themselves in.
Can you provide evidence to that there are no people who actually
that is why
Ruto and voted for him?
Listen.
Fabish, me, I can never agree to somebody. Yes, you have a problem.
One thing that I cannot tolerate with you is if you are coming to defend government, I'm not ready to debate with you in the first place, because if I wanted to debate on government issues, I will go and debate with government. So please, I don't have that tolerance to come and waste time debating with the government. If you are defending government, I'm debating with the people that we have a line of thinking and one cause. So if you are coming to defend government and telling me to give evidence, go and ask evidence where they are supposed. Go and ask DCI about the evidence. Don't come and ask me. I never worked for government. How you come and ask me the evidence? So you are in this country and you don't have any evidence of whatever illegalities and atrocities that is happening. And yet you are coming here and telling me how you are eloquent. Come on, let us stop this behavior. Sometimes people telling me why, but sometimes it drains someone. When you present yourself as very knowledgeable, and then if you want to defend government, just come here and show us that you are defending government, then we understand your line of, but don't just come and pretend that you are saying this. Now, these are the things that you just go to search in Google and you see. Oscar Sudi spoke. It was in the media. And now you are coming and telling me to present evidence. Which evidence you need? That no Kenyan know that most of these leaders, they rig themselves in, and you are telling me to present evidence. So sometimes let us stop being hypocrites. Yes, Mwalimu Western.
Fabrice, thank you so much. I'm following your conversation quite closely. I think what Brian is saying is that it is difficult to have corrupt politicians in an ethically upright society. They would not survive. Some of them would be hanged, some of them would be guillotined, some of them will go to jail. That if corruption and bad manners and bad behavior are only exclusive to the political elite constitutes such a small fraction of any given society that the rest of the society will deal with them decisively and very fast. If William Ruto was the only corrupt guy in Kenya, he would be in jail today as we speak. He would not be presiding over state affairs as the president of the Republic of Kenya. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying there is an ecosystem of corruption that is entrenched within the body politic and the rest of the society that feeds into this impunity you see around. Politicians playing games with Kenyans' lives. You're in parliament, you wait for instructions on who to vote for. Because of the positions you have been allocated by the regime, you announce that you're going to support the regime come elections. You don't care what the regime is doing. You see, that courage, very bizarre courage. Politicians in Kenya can speak like that because they're convinced that there are some people within the rest of the society that share their views. Very cynical. They're very self-centered. This thing is good because I benefit. If I don't benefit, it's not good. The William Ruto administration is bad because I'm not part of it. I'm not in the cabinet. Once I get in the cabinet, I start singing its praises. And that's why I think he could also cite the example of Rigathi. If you remember very well, when Rigathi was condemned from the day of inauguration over the remarks he made about empty coffers and what, and quite a number of Kenyans took great exception to those kind of pronouncements, seen to be uncivil and uncouth and stuff like that. And at that time, some people didn't think that he would gain traction at some point. In fact, I remember there's some students who say, "Oh, this Rigathi, how can he talk like this?" And then I say, but he's Kenyan. If he was to run for president, he's not going to get 500 votes. He'll get quite a number of votes. Well, I've been vindicated. As we speak now, the media is giving him traction. He has got support. You would imagine he's a different person from what he was a couple of months ago. Well, he's just the same person. Because the society is amenable to ill discipline, to bad manners. What we lack, Fabish, is a critical mass within the society to say no to this kind of behavior, to say no. Some politicians and Kenyans are waiting, for instance, for Raila Odinga to decamp from William Ruto's camp and join the so-called progressive forces. Kalonzo Musyoka is all over the place asking for Raila to join him. Like, it's laughable. It's completely laughable. So, like, what do you do? It's not important. If you can help us, just gain what we want. Whatever principles you hold, or if you don't have any principles, whatever values you hold, we don't care. There's somebody we want to defeat here, or there are opportunities who would like you to help us access. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. So Brian is very much correct when he refers to institutions in terms of parliament, the judiciary, IEBC. Those are institutions. But at a very fundamental level, institutions are about norms, the values that a society upholds. You can look at it from the communities in which we were born and socialized. There are certain do's and don'ts. They're not written anywhere. But when you come of age, you come to learn of them. That as a civilized member of this community, there are certain things you don't do. You don't do them. And if you want to be regarded as a responsible member of this community, there are certain cultural practices and customs that you have to uphold. Otherwise, you run a risk of being ostracized. So they're expressed in our behavior and how we treat one another. So this government official, for instance, who used some deep fake video to try and give the government traction over the Congo mediation process, or was it where Sudan? And then he was outed. What he did was just to apologize. But where there are norms and values, he would just have resigned. Just resigned and gone home. Not even an apology, you just go home. Because you're a disgrace to the society. How dare you lie like that? How dare you come up with fake videos to try and lie to the rest of the society? What other things are you doing when people are not watching? How can people entrust you, for instance, with their money? If you have the audacity to post videos and lie to people, you resign. But here, no, they don't resign. They come up with some very convoluted apology.
You mean the
that
PS,
doesn't
the
even make
PS for
sense.
foreign?
Yes, that PS for foreign affairs. So we have those kind of people within the Kenyan society, and therefore, even parliament itself is not anchored in institutions. Those parliamentarians are not driven by fidelity to the rule of law, because the rule of law is an institution. Democracy is an institution, So when the courts pronounce themselves, if you're a president or a cabinet minister or inspector general of police, you have to adhere. But in Kenya, you contest because you've got power, and there's no way the courts will take you. There's no way they were going to enforce their rulings, because they would rely on the police, and you control the police. So even parliament is not anchored in institutions. The presidency is not anchored in institutions. Even the judiciary itself is not anchored in institutions. So people get into public office not to serve the people of Kenya, not to exercise truth no matter what, not to exercise justice no matter what. They go there with a very biased and jaundiced mindset. I'm going to dispense justice to my friends. And if you're not my friend, I think I'm going to unleash DCI against you. I'm going to speak truth to the extent that I protect my interests. You lie. That is the challenge. I think that's the direction from which Brian comes. If I'm hearing him correctly, he's saying that the mess we're in, Fabish, it would be so easy to address if it was only exclusive to a small fraction of the people. It would be very easy because those people would just be characterized as lunatics. And you round all of them and check them in their asylum, and the rest of the society progresses. Or if it's a rogue president, we impeach him and you take him to court and to jail. We continue with our lives. But in Kenya, we can't do that. People will come up and defend this person you think should be going to jail. And they'll be fighting against one another on social media here. And in extreme cases, those differences will spill over onto the streets. Fabish was asked a question about solution. I think, Fabish, the question of solution, it tends to be narrow, and it's even narrow in Kenya. Because if you listen keenly, this legacy media, so-called mainstream, those people, when they invite you to the studio and you start talking of things that they don't want to hear, they shut you down by asking you, and what is your solution? Forgetting that, Fabish, if I'm having a conversation with you and you are raising pertinent questions vis-a-vis the things I'm doing, you are inviting me to reflect on the questions you are raising. And if I reflect on the questions you are raising genuinely, definitely I'll get the way out of that. So it's like somebody saying, don't take that content in that cup. It might be laced with poison. Well, you don't ask, but what do I take? It's enough that you are advised not to take that. If you want to go look for something to take or you don't take, it's entirely up to you. So you don't ask the but what do I take or what do I do? It's enough that you've been warned. So it's lazy thinking, really, in our society, where the mainstream media, which does the bidding of the political elite, socializes us not to ask the hard questions. And they shut us down by asking us solutions, such that if you don't have a solution, that's what they are saying, then you have no right to participate in this conversation. Where is it stated, or in which society are you only expected to participate in any kind of conversation if only and if you have got solutions? And what are they? So it's a question of asking, and being skeptical. It's a question of, you see, Fabish, if we are a society that we're just dedicated to justice, I mean, that is a solution. We just dedicated to justice across the board. There's a solution. I voted for you today, but tomorrow there's evidence that you stole money. No, I withdraw my support. I do. I'm not going to support you. I withdraw. Or truth, even if it's your enemy, and you can listen to them, what they're saying is unimpeachable. We say, yeah, I don't agree with this person. We don't get along. But what he's saying is actually true. We would really solve many of our problems. So we look for solutions as if solutions are like microwaved, things that you bake and serve people. It's never like that. It's always a frame of mind, how we think, problematize issues, reflect, listen to one another as opposed to talking down on one another. That is how societies resolve most of their contradictions. Just being patient to one another, just recognizing one another's dignity as a human person. That is the approach. It's a mindset. It's never like something you can itemize on a piece of paper. This is solution 1, solution 2, solution 3. It's never. If you're a president, you listen to what people are saying. You shelve if there are policies you wanted to enact. People are saying, no, we don't want that. Well, they're the ones who elected you. You shelve that policy. You don't double down with it. But we have rogue people in positions of power who think that they are ordained to impose their will on us and that they have got solutions. And therefore, if those solutions don't work, there's something wrong with us. I think that's the thing.
Western.
Yes, Fabish.
You know, in that aspect, we have had leaders severally, when they are addressing people, they will tell you that we have said it must go like this, it must go that way. That is the language that people are used to. Utasikia president akisema na tumesema kama serikali ni lazima. So it is not an inclusive language. And when it is not an inclusive language, how do you expect that even decision to be inclusive?
Fabish, human beings are socialized in such a way that they are wired to resist autocracy. Hardly will you get a society where people willingly put up with dictatorship. They are wired to resist things that are imposed upon them. They may not pour onto the streets, but they will express their opposition and resistance in whichever way they deem fit. So it's never, anybody who cares about governance, it's never the way to go, saying it's either my way or the highway, or to rule by fire. It's never the way. It's the easiest way to cause chaos and precipitate chaos and instability. So whoever does that, you can see, we are chaotic. Nothing works. In fact, whoever is saying we're likely to be like Uganda, we are like Uganda, if not worse, because Uganda officially is a dictatorship. With us, we pretend we're a democracy. We are not. The opposition leader who is being subjected to humiliation was abducted in Kenya. You wouldn't abduct somebody in a democracy and whisk them across the border into a dictatorship to be humiliated the way Kiza is being humiliated. So we're not. We're even worse than Uganda because they don't pretend with elections. We pretend with elections, but there's no outcome that you can say, okay, it's taking us forward. With them, the guy who is there, he treats the society as his homestead. He speaks as he wants. He treats everybody as he wants. He can jail you. He can kill you. How different are we? So as I learned, Fabish, democracy is a scam. It's a scam. And when I say that, I'm not an apologist of dictatorship because I don't do binaries. But all I'm saying, it's a scam. It's a scam because look at even the rot that is being uncovered, that was being perpetrated across the world under USAID, a supposedly agency meant for humanitarian work, addressing poverty, addressing reproductive health issues, and a whole host of things, governance, democracy, free media. Good things on paper. But
I support this statement. Good evening. I support this statement. What you're saying is very true, okay? Thank you, bro. Western, endelea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Fabish, like we hear, okay, USAID was, financing Boko Haram in Nigeria. What kind of things are these? Or they changed the curriculum in Egypt, or they
bro, if they can think that you're not saying the truth, I'm a lawyer and I'm there with you and we know these things and we are there, or everybody knows, bro, we want our country to be like America right now, exposing everything and getting them dodging. You Gen Z, you are the Doge in Kenya. You started this shit before America, okay? You are giving us the spirit, okay? Oh, so Fabish, you guys, good evening. We feel good. Tell them to fuck off. Kameenda baya sasa, Kash Patel ameingia, okay? Shughuli iko poa. FBI sasa kwanza, hawa say, hello. Are you guys wacha nimwambie mmefanya kazi. Let me tell you, bro, mmefanya kazi. I'm so happy with you guys. I'm so happy. Okay, endelea. Thank you. Good evening.
Oh, thanks for that, the intervention. Great, great, great. So, Fabish, when you look at those things, these so-called bastions of democracy, they are found wanting. But the people want to go to and say, no, these are our irreducible minimums, or these are the reforms we want. But we can see what they are doing. They have no problem with the atrocities in the Gaza Strip. They don't have a problem with that. So where is the rule of law there? Where is democracy there? Where is international law there? But for some reason in Kenya, we think, yeah, democracy will solve our problems. That even if we don't see any change as far as poverty is concerned, even if we don't see any change as far as the attitude of the political elite is concerned, even if we don't see any change as far as, addressing this problem of unemployment, it's good. We have elections and we have got a president, we have got a cabinet, we have got a constitution. But how do these things find expression in people's lived experiences?
Western, I'm here with you. Please ask me. We're together. Ask me. Address me, please. We are here. We are people.
Thank
we are
you.
people. We breathe the same
Thank
air,
you
bro.
so
We
much.
suffer the same. Come on, man. We work hard. That shit. Come on. We have children. We have suffered a long time. Okay. Ask me, bro. We are together here.
Yeah, thank
Really,
you.
we have suffered. What you are saying. What you have said from when I've entered here. Really, whoa, is a real heart. The whole humanity is on planet Earth. That's what we want. So simple. Imagine.
Great. I finished, Fabish, by saying even Winston Churchill himself, who is credited with this aphorism that democracy is the worst form of government until the rest are considered. Himself was a genocidaire. He stabbed people in India.
Why
So
are
he
you
didn't
saying
even
this now? Why?
He didn't even believe in democracy himself. So I'm not saying that we go the Rwandan way.
Why are
That's
you
not what I'm
saying this now? Why are you putting us on fire? We want violence, and we are putting fire on the violence. Hello, come on, bro. Come on, man.
But
I think we've signed for violence here.
Western,
Yes.
we have a country.
Yes.
We have a country that
Yes.
our first name starts with democracy. It's called Democratic Republic of Congo.
That is it. And that's where it starts and ends.
Come again, bro. Sorry. Good evening. Come again. Sorry. 1 minute. Come again.
Yeah, Congo is an example, Democratic Republic of Congo, and that is it. And you can say that again, Fabish, even on our political landscape. Whenever you see a party that has got this name democracy, just know it has nothing to do with democracy. That's the most fascist of political formations you can ever get anywhere. There's nothing democratic about what they do. But they want to fool you. They want to fool us that, the Orange Democratic Movement or UDA, whatever. No, there isn't. So we will have to, reflect on these questions, Fabish. I wanted to give the example of Rwanda. Well, it's not a democracy, but there's a lot of orderliness in Rwanda and an element of predictability. You can predict things in Rwanda. In Kenya, you can't.
Can you be interrupted because of dog sanitizer? Because bro, hello, that let's be general in Africa. We are Burkina Faso, those people, Traore people, so we know what was going on. So please.
Yes, absolutely. In the Sahel, I'm seeing the things that Ibrahim Traore is doing over there. Like I'm seeing, really. So the Burkinabe people asking, "Oh, you Nigerians with your democracy, good luck." With us, we have got a military man and he's delivering. We don't care about whether we go to vote or not. We can see the results. Our lives are turning around, and you Nigerians, you Kenyans, Ugandans with your democracy, we wish you well. So these are questions we're reflecting upon. And democracy actually is an ideology that external forces are using to control Africa, and especially in Kenya.
Thank you. Not only Africa, the world.
Absolutely.
Our existence, let's say, like 200 years. from the creation of, let's say, like schools, for example, medicines, those things, you know what I mean? If we go to the high intellect, Amaje, come on, thank you.
Yeah, it's used to do that, Fabish. And therefore, when you hear the European Union envoys in Nairobi commenting about IEBC and preparations leading up to next elections, it's not about the Kenyan people. It's about stability for the interests in Kenya. It's not about you and me. It's not.
Bro,
So
in the interest of, let's say, like, for example, when Obama came in, look at this. When Barack Hussein Obama came in, that was a change. That's where it was like a stamp. The Western civilization out in all means by WEF, World Health Organization, everything. If they have thrown every mission to put people away from what they are supposed to be. Okay? Even putting men to be women. Okay? To that extent in schools, changing our children. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it had gone too far. So now the ball, look, our life is like in a tennis court. We have an umpire. The umpire, look at this. The ball now is on our side. We are in the golden age. It's on our side, the humanity. There's God's side and the other side. Okay? You see them complaining, hiyo USAID itoke. Tuende kazi sisi wote, haki ya Mungu. Kila mtu aende kazi. Mwenye haende kazi tunashika moto na yeye. Anybody who doesn't go to work, ama aje in Africa, in the world, come on. Everyone must go to work. We pay for what we want. Not we pay you to steal. Sorry guys. Get on fire. We love our nation. Okay? We love each other. Bye.
Fabish,